I just remembered that as well. Thank you.
You need to
Yeah.
record, yes. Okay.
It's now recording. Welcome, everybody.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome and goodbye, everybody. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. We ready, John, Savas?
Yeah, definitely.
Sure,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay,
So welcome everyone to this session. This session is organized by the International Association of Facilitators. You can see that on the top left there, there's a logo, IAF, for those of you who are not very familiar with IAF. And this is a special group called the Social Inclusion Group. It's where we discuss of everything and anything that's related to social inclusion issues. And today we have a very important speaker who will be actually touching on this particular area of social inclusion. But before I start, my name is Sudeep Mohandas. I'm based in the US. I'm an IAF member. My co-partner, John Conwell, he's based there in Kenya. He's also an IAF partner. And our guest speaker also is with IAF. And interestingly, before I introduce him, the session will actually complete about in an hour and a half. And we are hoping as much interaction as possible. So there will be breakout rooms and conversations and presentations. I just want to make a quick announcement about in terms of IAF. IAF is basically a facilitation organization, it's a non-profit. Those of you interested, you can always link up. We'll be sharing the link to IAF. But most importantly, Savas Zafir Sahin, he's our guest speaker, and he recently won the Facilitation Impact Awards, which was for 2020. We're very happy and fortunate to have him because he's going to be sharing with us something very important that has actually got a lot of momentum in Ankara, Turkey. He's got a very interesting background. Besides the fact that he is a professor at the University of, let me pronounce this correctly, the Haji Bayram Veli University, and but he started off very interestingly as basically as a planner, and he just moved his whole career up as a head of strategy, and then eventually he was also with the tourism ministry. So he's got actually a very interesting background, and I think we're fortunate to have listen to him and how he actually used facilitation, and how that became a very important component to a movement in Ankara. So I will stop there, but before I just end, we also just want to touch on the fact that this year in 2021, there will be also another Facilitation Impact Awards, which will be opening soon, I suspect next week. There's a deadline, that's July 25th. Anybody who is interested in, sending in their proposals or the terms for this award, please do so. The link is out there in front of you right now. You can screenshot it, but there will be a recording, and you can also visit the website to get further information. Without further ado, before we move on, I think John is now going to just do a quick polling using Menti, which I think most of you are familiar with, and we'll get that going, and then after that we will pass it over to Savas.
Okay,
right,
many
John?
thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Sudeep. I hope most of you are familiar with Menti, but if you're not, what you need to do is just get out your phone. I always love this because in workshops we usually say, please put away your phone, but this is a moment where we're saying, please pick up your phone and log into menti.com. And the code, I've just put it in the chat, is when you ask for the code, it's 28. Sorry, I've put an extra 8 in there. Let me put it again. It's 28867349. Apologies for that. Please ignore the one that's there. I've just put another one there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I wish I could have put the direct link in, but I haven't. So maybe you can just put in the code, and just going to ask you a few questions, just find out who's with us today and where we are, and a few questions like that. So here's our first question: where are you today? I think you can see the code at the top there if you're still at that point. 288-67349. Ankara is the first one. Good. I think Ankara must be well represented. Berlin. Toronto, Canada, in my office. Okay. Just wondering where that is. Nova Scotia, Mi'kmaqi. Okay. That must be the indigenous name, I guess. Yeah. Johannesburg, South Africa. Arras, France. USA, New York. Mumbai, India. Lima, Peru. Fantastic.
Wow.
I think we've got all continents represented, which is wonderful. Okay, Ankara, of course, is way out on top. All right, let's go to the next one. What is your mother tongue? We thought it might be interesting to find out what languages are represented in the group today. Turkish, English, Hindi, I guess that's English as well, or French, Tulu, Somali, French, okay. Turkish is coming out on top. Telugu.
So everybody has to learn Turkish sometime.
Looks like it. Spanish. Any more? Okay. Good, good. Okay. Nice to see the languages. Next question is coming. Okay, this is just in the form of a kind of quiz, actually, but it's not really, it's not a competition. So what is your, oh, sorry, I need to go backwards. Missed a question. So question 1 of 3. Question is coming. Are you an IAF member? Don't have to think about it too hard. Okay, but the options are yes, no, or I will be soon. Three no's. Okay, 9 yeses, 5 no's, and 2 will be soon. That's good to know from those two.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And they're all correct answers, eh? So there's no wrong answer, as we love to say. Eh? So, okay, question number 2 coming up. Okay, what is your level of experience in social inclusion work? Okay, no experience at all, a little, fairly experienced, or very experienced? Three, 2, 1, time's up. Okay. Right, okay, interesting mix. 4 with no experience, 4 with a little, 6 fairly experienced, 2 very experienced. Okay, I bet some of the fairly experienced are probably very experienced. They're just being a bit humble, eh? Yeah. All right, thank you for that. Good to know. And oh, we haven't reached the end. I just went ahead. Question number 3 coming up. What do you expect to get from this session? What are your expectations from this session? Just give it a moment. I see it's a countdown again. Okay. Time is up. Let's see what people have put. Okay, knowledge, learning some expertise, new insights. Why did we lose the answers? Okay, they're back. Discover and learn.
Because of the limited time, John.
That probably is the problem, eh? But anyway, they're back. They're back. Safir Shahin's knowledge to know about experience of working in D&I, understanding of what is meant by social inclusion, tips and tricks for my toolbox, learning, experience in the area, learn more about how facilitation is used in social inclusion. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your
Excellent.
responses.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, John.
thanks, everybody. And over to Savash now.
Okay.
Okay, guys, it was very actually exciting to be with you all from all around the world. And I will try to use my time as best as possible, knowing that we are in different time zones. And for some of us, it's very late in the evening. But let me tell you a little bit about our experience with the award and facilitation in social inclusion. So I will be telling you things about the case of Ankara in terms of social inclusion via facilitation. Let me show you first this picture. This is a picture from the movie called World War Z. Why I show you this picture? Because nowadays we are living in a world where people usually have agoraphobia. We look into each other and we see as undefined masses full of fear. Lots of people are very difficult to handle because millions of people are living in vast metropolitan areas and city regions. But we all know that we are human beings and we have the necessary tools to bring our ideas together and those fruitful results. So what are these main challenges nowadays? We know that there are limitations and boundaries of participation and social inclusion so far. The methods we use are usually for small groups, and we are trying to learn and trying to innovate on using these methods for larger groups. And there's a need for upscaling existing participatory mechanisms for metropolitan areas and city regions. And the necessary toolbox to realize this operational social inclusion methods is a very needed one. And there are also some very important changes. There are changes in our understanding of what participation and social inclusion is. And there are changes in the conception of power. What do we mean by power? And there are also changes in the behavior of individuals in participatory processes and social inclusion practices, which I will come in a minute. You see, there is a very interesting table in the screen comparing old power values, the new power values. What is this comparison? Actually, this is a relatively new comparison in political science, telling us that what do we mean by power is changing. Usually, in the old world, the old power values dictates us institutionalism, exclusivity, competition, authority, etc. But the new power values, especially coming with the young generations, tells us that the radical transparency, the methods are also useful. The open source collaboration, the wisdom of the crowd is something we shouldn't be taken for granted. We should look into those things when we think about social inclusion, because today participation and social inclusion has many facets. It's not only about listening to citizens, but it's also about sharing, shaping, funding, producing, and even co-owning. We are seeing thousands of examples of these experiences. And when we look at what are the tools we have? We have public involvement tools. This is a very nice diagram I usually use when I talk about participation. We started as the human beings in the tribal gatherings, participatory activities, and social inclusion. But when the history moves, we start learning and innovating new mechanisms for participation. Today, we can get them in the participate by being there, participate in decision making, or where we participate in virtual environments. But there is one problem. Diverse contexts and diverse forms of social inclusion and participation is all usually based on natural instincts and social psychological dynamics. And if you don't try to manage them, you cannot know where are you going on with those participatory practices. There's moderates and operates participatory efforts towards converging and diverging results via the power of facilitation, I believe. Because the cities we live in have many problems. We have diversity, incredible diversity in our cities, which we have to manage. There are prejudices towards participatory and social inclusion activities. Some people don't believe they work. There are some organized interests who are pressing very forcefully the decision-making process fruitful for themselves, but not fruitful or profitable for the whole society. And there are unorganized masses who doesn't know or understand much about the participation activities. And there are also structural barriers, we can say. People is there a problem with John?
Yeah, it's just that your voice is coming and going quite a bit. You know, we're not getting everything.
Sorry,
I suspect it could be the connection.
Sorry about that. Let me just change my connection.
Okay.
Or perhaps your connectivity is also affected by having a background, so that also affects connectivity. So you might just want to present without your video and the background too.
Yeah, maybe also if at the moment, if people could turn their videos off, at least for the presentation part, that might help. And we can turn them back on again a bit later.
I think that will solve the issue. How is it now?
Okay, yeah, let's...
Yep, definitely better.
Yeah,
better, yeah.
Okay, let's go on then. So there are structural barriers to social inclusion in our cities. Some people, for instance, the poor classes couldn't reach the participatory decision-making practices. There is this problem of skill. Okay, it's not difficult to, for instance, realize participation of 20 people, but it might be very difficult to provide, say, 100,000 people's participation. And there is also this culture of social inclusion, of social participation. What does that mean? If your culture is not very compatible with participatory activities and values, it might be very difficult for you to go on with such activities and reach fast results. Okay, let's come to Ankara then. Tell me a few things about Ankara first. It is the capital city of Turkey. It's a modern city with 6 million inhabitants, located inland Anatolia, which means we're not seeing the sea. We just have a few lakes. And 5 million of those residents are living in mostly in dense settlement structure. And the city is higher than Turkish average socioeconomic status, income, and education level. What is this history about participation in the city? In 1970s and 1990s, we have a history with participation, especially with the local Agenda 21 and the social democratic municipal power had some experience and experiments with the participation. But unfortunately, we have a very long participation vacuum just after 1994. Why 1994? Because in 1994, a mayor was elected who is completely opposing the participation of the citizens. He was fond of making decisions with a few members of the institutionalized stakeholders, but he was not very fond of participation. And in 2019, just 2 years ago, a new mayor was elected, and this new mayor declared that he will open all channels of participation, so that the Citizens Assembly started with this new mayor. His name is Mansur Yavaş. Sorry about that, just left in Turkish, but I'll tell you just. In June 9, 2019, we had the first meeting for the Citizens Assembly, and we have a very interesting experience from that time on. And we called this project the Citizens of Ankara Reassembled, inspiring from the those days famous movie Avengers, because the Captain America was telling Avengers assemble. So at that time we were telling the people living in Ankara reassemble, because they assembled before. And more than 300 institutional stakeholders congregated in the Citizens Assembly of Ankara. So what is a Citizens Assembly, you might think? Citizens Assembly is a non-profit, non-governmental, autonomous community organization established according to the Turkish law of municipalities. And it is a participatory organization that supports the elected Metropolitan Council and the mayor by consolidating community participation efforts and citizen initiatives. So it is basically a supporting participatory mechanism. So what was the new about this Citizens Assembly in Ankara? Usually this instrument was not strongly established in any city of Ankara. There were some bits and pieces of some experiences, but usually they were quite weak. This was the first time one of the strongest citizens assemblies established in Ankara. And at the beginning of this project, we have three objectives, basically. The first one was to persuade and gain the trust of a significant number of stakeholders in Ankara to become a member of the assembly, and in order to re-establish Citizens Assembly of Ankara. And the second one was to define local policies and strategies for structural problems of Ankara region with these newly recruited members, and pursue enactment of these proposals in the Metropolitan Municipal Council. And the third one was to strengthen community awareness and create concrete solidarity examples among citizens, especially in urgencies. Yeah. Okay. So what was the methodology? Actually, I call our project as a facilitation project, because we use three types of facilitated processes in this project. The first one was the general forums, in which all the representatives of the stakeholders participated and discussed the establishment process of the assembly. Now we have 600 members in these institutional stakeholders. The second one is the working group meetings, in which different teams related to proposals to the council were elaborated upon. And the third one was focus groups, in which needs assessment and tools for improving solidarity among citizens and the communities tackled. So these are different scales of facilitation and facilitated processes throughout this Citizens Assembly. So what are the results? Results so far, now we have 600 stakeholders, including universities, associations, foundations, chambers, unions, neighborhood administrations, public agencies, municipalities, and it became one of the largest and widespread citizens assembly in Turkey. And we have now 30 working groups And those working groups defined 6 issues related to bicycle roads in the city, a climate action plan, urban greening projects, agricultural projects, production, and celebration of important historical days. And all of these decisions were enacted with a unanimous vote in the Metropolitan Municipal Council. And especially during the pandemic of COVID-19, the Citizens Assembly had a very interesting and high performance while trying to realize solidarity among citizens of Ankara. And the Assembly disseminated community awareness campaigns to bring together Ankara people, which was very strongly supported by the Ankara people. And now we have over 2,000 volunteer members in our working groups and thematic groups, and we try to provide sectoral, thematic, geographical diversity in social inclusion and especially gender mainstreaming. Let me tell you one thing, Ankara Citizens Assembly is the first citizen assembly who had a gender mainstreaming education in all levels. And we have a strong focus on urban citizenship. And there are regular feedbacks from stakeholders, and we try to work social inclusion and participation, quality. 3 words are important: content, communication, and consent in this respect. And we also try to foster urban pilot projects to support the city's vision, to widen the city's vision and decision makers. I told you about our activities during the pandemic, and let me tell you just 2 important pilot projects which Mehmet Tuncer, my colleague, he is also with us now together today, which are very important in shaping the city's future. The pilot project one is the architectural competitions. We see it very important because the city of Ankara hasn't seen architecture competitions for more than 20 years nearly. So the Citizens Assembly fostered competitions, and now we have competitions opening for the design of public spaces in the city, and we have a specific website for this. If you like to look at it, you can just note the number of the site down. Unfortunately, it's in Turkish, but it will give you an idea about the competitions. They are national design competitions. Second one is a very exciting experience for us. There was this specific park in Ankara, sorry, called Gençlik Parkı, or in Turkish, and Youth Park in English. And it's not in a bad, it's in a good shape actually. So we bring together a group of young design students, and together with them, you're now seeing these young students with the mayor. And this was the place, and an abundant trade trade place, an abundant cafe in the park. So our young friends, you see now one of them designed the place, worked together, and then transformed the place into this beauty. You're now seeing a modular, now redesigned public space in which I'm very sorry, I don't know what happened to my throat.
Please take some water, Savaş.
Yeah.
But the pictures look great, so maybe it's not
Anyway,
a bad moment to be coffee.
While I'm dying. We have a small stage for little concerts for the citizens, and we have a small exhibition area, open air, and have a small meeting room to let people congregate for the citizens assembly. And this is the night vision of the place. Hopefully one day you will come. And at the end, I will show you some videos of our activities. Okay, and there is another one telling the whole story actually about the Citizens Assembly and with all its colors and diversity. You will see now young people, women, cyclists, people with disabilities. And at the end, you see the city of Ankara with a nice scene from the city. Okay, what have we learned? We learned much about the power of facilitation. If you let people think out of the box, you will gain their trust. And that is one thing very important for social inclusion. And when you bring together diversity, you establish a positive environment and a solidarity ecosystem. And there is also an indirect learning process for facilitation skills. You don't need to first teach them how to facilitate and then let them operate. But another way to do that is to let them learn throughout the process. You need to take the scale into consideration, and you need to manage the encounters of different diversities in the city. Okay, this is our family of Citizens Assembly, at least some part of them, and we call them our assembly, our family. And this is the end of my presentation. John, shall I leave the question here, or?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll just copy it into the chat anyway.
Okay.
Because
so,
this is the question we're going to use. Huh?
Yeah. Sorry about the technical difficulties, and this just prolonged my presentation a few minutes. And sorry, Sudeep, for that. And okay, now we will be going into breakout rooms. We will divide you into groups, and we will be visiting you. And we would like you to discuss one specific question, and that is, what was your experience with social inclusion and use of facilitation in public participation? What was your experience, basically? How you learned, how you heard about the social inclusion and participation in your life, in your city, in your country? So we will be having 10 or 15 minutes group discussion, and then we will come together again. Shall I close my presentation, John?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. I stopped
put the question in the chat now.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Hope I could get a sense of what our experience was to you. And we will have a question and answer session following breakout rooms to talk about our experience and yours more.
Great. Thank you so much, Savaş. Teşekkür ederim. It was really very inspiring to hear about the project. That's about the start and the end of my Turkish, unfortunately. But no, I'm sure others got excited by that as well, and really great to hear about. So what we are going to do now for 15 minutes is go to breakout rooms. I think we've got about 4 people in each room. And the question is in the chat. What was your experience with social inclusion and the use of facilitation in public participation? And I think some of the other project members, we should mention Mehmet, who's here, Edem, and Asena, and they're going to be in the groups as well. So if you're with one of them, then you can also find out more about the project at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to open the breakout rooms now. We've got 15 minutes and then we'll come back and we'll ask each group one person from each group just to share a key highlight when we get back. Okay, but have an enjoyable discussion in the meantime. And Savash will be coming around to visit you. And Sudeep, I didn't put you in a group, should I? Or what do you want to do? I can't hear you.
I enjoyed the only element was there was some small, we missed you in some parts, but that's okay. I think we could pick it out. The fact that you had the slides, that was all right.
Sorry, Sudeep, which part?
No, there were some parts your as you were speaking, we missed you.
Sorry, yeah, that was unfortunate. I don't know what happened. Yeah, I changed my internet connection later, but it was all right before. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I can share my presentation with the participants later.
Yeah, that'll be okay.
John, where is John? Oh, it looks like there's only 2 people in one group, John.
John.
We can merge them with the others. And one of them, Rita and Erdem in room 3. John?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I got cut off then. Yeah, I can do, because there are only 2, eh?
Yeah. Just...
Sudeep, I was asking, do you want to join one of the groups or not?
Okay, I'll join them.
Okay, room 3.
So I'll put you in group 3, then there'll be 3, eh? Yeah.
I'm going now.
And then Savash, I can send you to one of the groups, then you can move yourself. Is that right?
Okay, definitely. Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
It's
so
okay,
I'll just send you to one. I'll send you to number 1, and
I'm not able to join.
Okay. Oh.
I'm trying to get in, but I'm not.
I wonder why.
Maybe you should send Steve.
I did.
Yeah, I'm not able to get in.
Wonder why. Let's
anyway,
try something else.
I'm joining the room 1.
Okay, why don't you join the room 3 first?
Okay.
I can join as well, John.
Oh, really? I wonder why. This
I
is
don't
a bit
know.
strange, eh?
I say yes, but...
Yeah, but you're not going,
yeah? I don't know why. I am I'm the co-host. So Sudeep is going by walking.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. Yeah, just did do, yeah.
Okay, we have 4 breakout rooms, and we have 10 minutes to highlight some of the key points in each group. Who would like to start? Let's start with the room 1. And anybody from room 1 to tell few points about what you talked about?
Room 1 was Asena, Chetna, Paul,
maybe
and Sharda.
If you wish, I can speak.
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Asena.
It was very interesting to hear what's happening in different parts of the world. First of all, from Canada, Paul told us about how they're working to include people coming from different ethnic backgrounds at the National Farmers Union. There are people from indigenous groups, Black people. So it was very interesting to hear about their experiences in Canada. And later, Sharda was talking about the situation in South Africa, more about the economic discrepancies and mostly financial inclusion of people and bringing them together and lessening the gaps between these people. And then Chetna was talking about the situation in India, and she talked about their activities, about how they're working to include different parts of the society again, including children. And I was telling my experience in Ankara, and as a citizen, how I was feeling that I'm very comfortable as a citizen because I know that I'm heard and at the decision-making process since the elections. So I told them about my experiences, and I told them about the balanced representation at the Citizens Assembly in Ankara in terms of people coming from different experiences, backgrounds, groups, cultures. So yeah, that was what we were talking about.
A very nice briefing, Asena, and thank you very much. I think you cut all the people's voices here. So perfect. So we can proceed to the room number 2, if possible. Room number 2. Anybody from room number 2?
Group 2 was Liz and Mehmet and Roshan.
Yeah, maybe Roshan.
Roshan, yeah, will tell. I think, yeah.
With his colorful background, Roshan.
I think, yeah, Professor was speaking. That's all.
Okay. How do you? Okay, Mehmet Hocam.
Roshan will take part. I think he will tell.
Okay, Roshan.
Okay. Yeah. So Professor Mehmet, right? If I'm.
Yeah. Tuncer, yeah.
So he spoke about how he has been working with Antalya, and there is a master plan that with which he has been working in local and central government, and it's a huge thing. I think it's the responsibility is quite huge of taking. There are around 600,000 people who reside over there, so taking decision making and meeting the villagers and the urban people related to their issues, and the conservation area, which is also part of it. I think he also showed us a few pictures of the places where around Antalya, and yeah, and there is, if I'm not wrong, 25,000 scale. It's about that huge. Yeah. Would you like to add something which I'm missing? I guess it would be great.
Herhangi bir şey eklemek ister misiniz Roshan hocam?
Bana mı diyor? Şey yapamadım.
Evet,
Tam
evet.
anlayamıyorum. Gidip geliyor ses de. Yeah, Roshan, thank you very much. And in my speech, I'm actually urban planning in the Turkey, urban planner and regional planner and conservation planning since 35 years. And I mentioned about the master plan of Antalya, and preparing master plan while we were there. We had many meetings, public participation, and local governmental persons participate of these meetings, because the macro plan is very important, and every person had some ideas and some things about the plan. And I mentioned secondly the Patara conservation plan and management plan in southern part of Turkey is a very important antique city, Lycian capital, Lycian time capital. And while we were making the plan of conservation plan and also management plan, we had many participation meetings of the local villagers and local governmental bodies. Thank you very much.
Okay, Roshan, will you add other things? Or?
Yeah. So I was the other person who spoke about the work that we do as Rangbhumi in India, in Mumbai, and other spaces in India. It's about last 1 year we had created a performance for Forum Theatre. It's called as Raise Your Hands Only If You Know the Right Answer. It's about education system, how there is struggle between parents, teachers, and students. So this we had our students have performed for UK students, for US students, for Spanish theater of the oppressed practitioners, and in India as well. So yeah, this was one of them, and the other one was about unconscious bias. We had created performances related to unconscious bias that rotates or that exist in corporate setup. How people tend to speak with biases, and biases do exist. That's a thing. Everybody is biased, but what do we do with that? So this was done for manufacturing companies or FMCG companies, like various setups.
Okay, thank you very much for room 2. And room 3, it was the smallest group with the help of Sudeep. Would you like to add anything, Rita, Sudeep? Or
Sudeep had a good example to share.
Yeah, Sudeep.
I think he may have stepped away from his computer. I don't know.
No, you put me on the spotlight, Rita. Okay. Yeah, so I basically was nothing similar to what Savas had, but in my experience, when I was in Malaysia, in the island of Borneo, the Malaysian part, in a place called Sarawak up in the highlands, I did a lot of work with the indigenous people up in the highlands, and it was there's a huge community up there in the highlands, and to actually get them into some kind of participation mode and to include them, because even among different tribes there's not much inclusion. They do keep them distance, although they do know they're in the forest, but they also have their own issues. So to bring indigenous people together is also a challenge. One tends to think just city folk is a big problem, but even among people inside. So to get them together from different tribes and to understand that they can actually work together from an economical perspective in dealing with the people in the urban setting was a big challenge. And also working with the media and the government officials, because they look at them as enemies, not helping them. And so that was a very interesting experience. And spiritualism comes into play because they do believe in different things. Their belief system is very different, and so because their belief system is very different, for an urban person, a car may be important, but for the people in the forest, walking is more important. So it's as simple as that. They don't believe that you should make it. So these kind of just little things had to be shifted and changed. And I'm not saying that city people knew exactly the right, but there was a lot to learn even from indigenous people.
Thank you, Sudeep. Indeed, it's a very interesting example. I mean, we tend to perceive the world as we live in our lives. I mean, it's very interesting to hear that there are very striking different ethnic and racial differences all around the world, and it's a very big challenge to realize social inclusion for all the people with such properties. Okay, and the last group, the room number 4. Anybody would like to talk about, give a small brief?
Irene, would you like to share a little bit?
That's okay.
Thank you.
But you'll come in with David, right?
Yeah.
So I think we took a slightly different look at public participation and some of the things that we go through in different settings, because as you can see, we are from different parts of the world. With the 3 of us in that group were from different continents, and oh well, no, Turkey is different. Anyway, sorry, my geography is bad. So what we were talking about is the influence that that happens in case you invite the politicians and political affiliated people to your meetings, and how the whole goal of your meeting can be derailed, and how to work around that and make sure that in the end you get your goal, you achieve your purpose, or the goal of why you are having that meeting and why you are facilitating it. The other one is I'm happy that you've talked about the unconscious bias about men facilitators, male facilitators, female facilitators, and in some cases white facilitators and the African facilitators, and the dynamics that happen when you have to facilitate a big group that happens. So the unconscious bias or the conscious bias, I don't know which is which, sometimes play a big role in that. And it's important for us to find ways of working around some of these issues so that we can achieve our goals. So we kind of looked at it on the other side of it, I think. So I will let Funda say something, I think. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Funda?
No, I had to answer the door. So I don't know if you have told already, but we all agreed that politicians are not much interested in listening, letting the space to people, are not very much interested in participation. They rather prefer to take the space, and they talk too much and just give out handovers. So it will take some time to change this, I think, to transform leaders as listeners. We all agreed about that. David doesn't have much gender issues, but Irene and me, we face, and we think it's a long way to go.
Yeah, I think the politician, well, the gender issues, well, speaking in my sphere, I don't seem to have any, it doesn't seem to be a real issue, or there's still a difference in salaries, which are trying to deal with. But yeah, just to get back to the politician thing, I think there's they do talk a lot, but I think there is a slow realization that that they're lacking certain skills. I've been discussing with 1 or 2 people here in the region, and I can give you an example. I presented something to a local politician recently, and he said, could you give it to me in a more condensed format? And I said, well, yes, I can. He says, because I'm going to pass it on. And I says, I can do it like this if you want. And he went, good God, no. He says, it's fantastic, he said, but the people I work, they understand straight lines. And that's it. Arrows. And he says, what, that is not a criticism, but if it's not straight lines and arrows, they're not going to get it. And he says, and we're very bad at the creative thing. So no, no curves, straight lines. You know, so,
yeah, thank you very much, David, Funda, and Iran. Sudeep is warning me about the timing. Now we have 10 minutes for question and answer session, especially things you're curious about our experience or the things we have all together discussed. if you have any questions or comments, please do so. Floor is yours now to use this 10 minutes together. Yeah. Anybody?
Yeah, I think Irina's got her hand up. I think she's the first to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I noticed in one of the beautiful photos you shared, the sitting arrangement was almost circular, and that never happened, almost never happens in Kenya when we have when we have politicians and you know, anybody political and all that. But my question is, how did you, what was that thing that made the politicians or the people in power agree to actually sit in the same circle to discuss things at that level and to listen? What did you do? What were the steps?
So, Savas, maybe we can take a few more questions before you answer that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I took note. Yeah.
Irene, can you just reduce your lower your hand? Anybody else got any questions?
Funda,
Yes,
I think.
Funda.
I would like to know more about the techniques you used for participation and inclusion, Savaş.
Anybody else?
Yeah, can I?
Yes, Paul. Paul and then Chetna.
I'd be curious if there are ever moments where certain views are not welcome and you're not trying to include everyone in every single part of the process. And if you have any views on that.
Okay, we'll take Chetna and then go ahead, Savas. Okay, Chetna?
Yeah, I somewhat got related to Paul. You also mentioned about the 3 C's: content, communication, and the third one is consent. So I'm also wondering about the consent piece of how much inclusion would you like, and is there a drain that happens? Do you get tired by kind of including people too much in the consent making process? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect questions, actually. Let's start with Iran, the circular sitting. Actually, one of that's also related to Funda's question. We are very much trying to plan and trying to organize everything ahead of the meeting. And our friends here, Asena, Mehmet, and Erdem, knows the details. For instance, if we're gonna congregate with, say, 20 people, probably we will try to sit in a circular setting, whomsoever comes, even it's a politician, even it's an association leader, even it's a citizen. And that's actually as a result of good planning, actually. And we started doing this at the very beginning of the Citizens Assembly. And we somehow forced people to accept this reality. And anybody now, if comes to the Citizens Assembly, knows that he will sit in a egalitarian setting, and nobody will get a prior or a higher status, because we will try to elaborate this issue in every speech we do. The head of the Citizens Assembly, me, myself, people in the executive board, nearly in our every speech, the first 2 sentences are about the horizontal structure of the Citizens Assembly. Otherwise, you can't get the voice of all those 600 institutional stakeholders, who probably they will start thinking that some people are more equal than themselves, so that they quit participating. So this is, Irene, this is the very basic starting point for us to plan ahead the facilitation settings, and we try to use as best as possible at what we have in our hands. And coming to the techniques, Funda, it's not easy, actually. Actually, I'm somehow an experienced facilitator for more than 10 years. I'm facilitating very large groups for especially government occasions. while doing strategic plans, strategy documents, etc. And I try to transfer my knowledge to the Citizens Assembly. This was not an easy thing, because usually, you know, people apply what they know and what they learned beforehand. And in like in all other countries, in Turkey as well, what people learned was basically is a conference room setting, which is some person comes and talks and the other ones listens. But we try to overcome this by dividing our citizens assembly into working groups and thematic groups, and those working groups and thematic groups definitions either comes from the general assembly, or they offer that, like in Asena's case, for instance, she came to us and recommended that the social innovation is an important aspect of social inclusion, and we listened to her with her friends, and then we established a working group for social inclusion, social innovation, sorry. So, and at the first stage, we always let people define their own settings. We don't impose any setting on them. But if we see that they are having difficulty in getting an egalitarian setting, we intervene and tell them that there are certain techniques of, for instance, creating ideas, having the voice of everybody, and we are giving the examples from the facilitation techniques is exampled with other working groups. And coming to post questions, of course, there are certain views which are not welcomed by everybody, or controversial issues. It is I have to say that because we are at the very beginning of the process, and this city is waiting so eager for more than 20 years for such an organization, now we are in the phase of talking about politically correct things like having a climate action plan or having bicycle roads. But I'm sure there will come a point when the different interests will collide, and we have to, you know, somehow mitigate each other. But in our experience, we had a certain understanding, a culture. We are talking to the groups, working groups and thematic groups, and telling them that if you're not reaching an agreement, please go on with the discussion. Do not stop. Probably include new expert views, include other people in the process, but this is an open-ended process. You don't need to reach a consensus point anytime soon. That means either you're not getting enough information or enough content representing the whole city, or you're not getting the basics of the problem. For instance, I talked to the room number 3 that we are now having more than 5 million Syrian refugees. And there are people coming to the Citizens Assembly telling that, okay, there's this problem of Syrian refugees, but we're telling them the problem is not the Syrian refugees. The problem is how to integrate them into the city life, which is something else. So redefining and reshaping the question is a substantial skill we need to operate these issues. And coming to Chetna's question, which is also related to Paul's question as well. Of course, yeah, the changing the behavior of people who are included in the process is not an easy task. And let me tell you one thing, and Professor Mehmet Tuncer knows firsthand that we are under huge pressure for certain issues, because we are like mediator between the municipality and the citizens. At some points, we are mediating between people in the citizens assembly. For instance, let me give you one example. Sometimes we establish a working group, and one person in that group starts telling that okay, we need to have directives, we need to have regulations, and start writing down extensive rules for everybody to, obey. And we, at that point, intervene and tell that person, sorry, my friend, this is not a bureaucracy. You have to stop writing down rules, but you need to discuss these rules with your other people in the process, which is not welcomed all the time, let me tell you the truth. But this is an ongoing process, and the more we talk about these issues, the more people start accepting that. Another thing is, for instance, at the beginning, people took us as the road to the municipal financial resources. See, they thought that, okay, if we are accepted in the citizens' assembly, probably the municipality will spend money on our project. We told them, if you have an innovative and if you have a well organized project, we can discuss it in the citizens' assembly. We can improve it even more, and then we can present to the municipality. But it's not our job to, force municipality to accept the project or apply it anyway. But the thing is, if we transform the citizens' assembly into a platform in which we discuss all these issues, all these projects, probably they will start transforming the municipality's rationality as well. This is the point. And this is how now, after 25 years in Ankara, we are having bicycle roads, limited, but at least we have now bicycle roads, and it will increase in the future. And we are happy to have this burden, actually, Chetna, because without that burden, I mean, we don't think that we have fulfilled our responsibility for this city, and we need to establish good role models for the country. Otherwise, the politicians, as you know, would like to talk more, and even though they don't write down their own speeches, but they would like to talk more than us. But if you'd like to change their worldviews, we need to present them well-established and well-written policies and projects, and these are all can only be reached by basically social inclusion and participation. Thank you very much for very nice questions, very intriguing questions. And looks like we finished our question and answer session.
Very good. We finished our question and answer. I think, Asena, you had your hand up a few minutes ago.
Yeah. She's clapping.
Did you want to come in and say something?
You wanted to ask something, Asena, or you just...
Yeah, I just wanted to add something, but Savaş Bey already mentioned this. I just wanted to say at the working group, I saw that at the other working groups as well, at one specific subject, different people coming from different professional backgrounds are included. This is also an answer as a technique, maybe, to Funda's question, because, for example, for our subject, social innovation and entrepreneurship, at the working group, there's an engineer, there is a person coming from media, there's a person dealing with human rights and children's rights. So there are people coming from different backgrounds, and this enriches really the decision-making process and the quality of the proposals, I think. And this can maybe be also considered as a technique to include as many different people as possible.
Diversity, yeah. Thank you.
Diversity,
exactly.
And I'm giving the floor now to Sudeep for a wrap-up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, before we end, I'd just like to thank Savaş for a very, very good session where we were able to have the breadth and also the depth. We went into some details. I think most cases we just touched the surface. I think we really went into some really key details, and it was good to hear from you and your team. So thank you very much. I think it was very useful. And to this whole, everybody here on the single screen right now, it would be nice if we just take one screenshot. What do you think, John?
Yeah, good. Can
so
you
if we can just get everybody on video, and we are here with Professor Savaş for a very technical if you're in your best suit.
Savas, can you do the photo for us?
Yeah, Savas, take a screenshot for all of us. Yeah.
I'm
I can do it.
With the Citizen Assembly of Ankara.
Yeah. Cheese, everybody.
Okay.
Cheese is a big thing in Turkey, yeah?
Yeah, it's a big thing in Turkey. So we're very happy to hear what's happening in Turkey. That's really happened. And we're also very happy. We're all happy to have you all here in this session. Thank you very much for participating. And I hope you've learned. Please connect with Savas. I think John has shared his email, and also IAF if you're ever interested. And with that, we'd like to conclude. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Wherever you are, whichever time zone you are, good night, good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Shada. Thank you.
Shada.